All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar Top 5 Challenges Customers Face and How to Solve Them. We are so excited to have you here today. My name is Kimaya Sharp. I'm a part of the marketing team here at WellSaid, focusing on customer marketing specifically, and I will be your moderator today. I am thrilled to be able to co host this conversation with my brilliant colleague, Regina Sutton, who is a senior customer success manager here at WellSaid. And for many of you, Regina is likely your go to guide, making sure that customers crush their goals, they get great value from our product, and actually enjoy the ride along the way. So, hello, Regina, and welcome.
Hey, thank you. I am thrilled to be here talking with everyone today. We are going to discuss those top 5 challenges and hopefully give you all some really good solutions so that you're able to work even better with this awesome product.
I'm feeling good about it. And I know before we dive into these top 5 challenges, we do want to give you all an audience poll just to kind of find out what those challenges are. So, Regina, would you like to kind of set us up there?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, the webinar today is about the top 5 challenges. So we'd love to hear from you. What have been your top 5 or kind of biggest challenges with creating voice content? So we have a few options for you, and that's going to be scaling production, budget constraints. We know those are affecting everyone right now, voice quality and pronunciation. Turnaround time efficiency is a huge one that I hear from customers every day. Brand consistency, and if we missed one, please drop that in the chat. We would love to know.
Yes, yes. Please feel free to drop that in the chat. And I do see that the poll results are coming in. While you all are taking time to answer the poll, though, I do have a couple of housekeeping items just to kind of point out. First, know that this session is being recorded. You should have heard that at the beginning of the webinar, but you will receive all of these incredible updates and tips that Regina is providing to you in your inbox post webinar. Second, make sure that you stay until the end because we will unveil a well said sneak peek, which will give you a glimpse into some of the things that are to come for this phenomenal community. And last, please know that this is your webinar. So we do have a Q&A that should be open for you all. Please feel free to comment in the chat if you are having any technical issues with it. But drop all of your questions there. We will ensure that we get to those. And if for some reason we cannot, we will make sure that those are resolved at the end of the webinar with the recap. So it looks like we are kind of dying down now. We'll go ahead and end the poll. And it seems like, wow, at 94%, voice quality and pronunciation seems to be the biggest thing that a lot of people are really kind of focused on. Regina, are you surprised by that outcome?
I can't say that I am super surprised. That's something that I discuss a lot with customers, especially with industry specific words and really unique brand names, wanting to ensure that that consistency there with how, it's pronounced because your brand is so important. So we have a lot of really deep discussions on calls concerning this. So I'm actually really excited that that was brought up and for us to discuss it more today.
Yes, yes. And I know it's not our first challenge that we're going to discuss today, but I'm sure it will come up, as you mentioned, throughout this conversation. But challenge number one is a faster way to be able to create and update voiceover content. That is one I know. When I started at WellSaid, I was an account executive. In the conversations that I would have, usually this was one of the number one things that I heard people asking about when it came to our solution. So teams were spending so much time scouting voice talent. They were re-recording edits and just trying to kind of keep up with the content updates, especially when it came to regions or even languages. So to me, it just really kind of highlights how much pressure teams were under to kind of move faster without sacrificing the quality of their content. And Regina, I know that you're working with customers every day. So what are you hearing from teams that are trying to scale their content and streamline their workflow?
Yeah, I'm glad that you kind of mentioned that and shared, your background as well. Something that I'm hearing from customers is on two sides of things. I have customers that are sharing their stories with us about layoffs due to budget constraints. So, just to paint a picture here, we have less people on a team And, still the education of the company or the org is still really important. So, them experiencing slower production rates and things like that because it takes a while to create this content. And then on the other or kind of opposite side of things, we're also hearing, you caught a random sniffle. It happened to me last week. Allergy season is here and real.
Yes.
And, my voice changed completely. I was on calls for a week and sounded nothing like myself. Imagine having to re-record all of that until my voice was back to normal. It's still clearing up this week. So I couldn't imagine that happening. Kimaya, does that happen to you?
Oh my gosh, yes. I sound like a completely different person in the morning. So imagine doing some content in the morning and then having to go back and redo something in the afternoon, not even sounding like yourself. That would definitely be something I'm sure my team would be disappointed and a little frustrated with me on. So yeah.
Right. And I think that's where WellSaid comes in and kind of changes the game because instead of having to, wait until the next morning when your voice sounds the same again, or having those slow down in production times and rates, like for some of my companies that are experiencing the shrinking of their team, you are able to go from script to audio in just a couple of minutes. And if something does change last minute, like me and my shaky allergy voice, you can just really easily re-render the clip and you're done. I think WellSaid does an incredible job of scaling with your team or sometimes the lack thereof, and not against it instead.
Yeah, and I think with you talking about scaling with your team or lack thereof, I know there's been a lot of like budget cuts. So I think that's a great transition into challenge number two around pricing. And the question that often comes up, I feel, please correct me if I'm wrong, but is AI voice worth the cost? And I think that's a totally fair question, but I also think that pricing doesn't tell the whole story. So what I believe that sometimes we hear most from teams, and again, please feel free to correct me, but they may say, they're not telling us that they want the cheaper option. They're more so along the lines of it's the voice talent that we usually work with that's inconsistent. They have the morning voice, or we're stuck for days trying to get edits back, or we're kind of juggling so many different approvals. It's very hard to move quickly. And when those folks finally find WellSaid, they realize that it's not just them solving these problems, they're actually saving money in the process. Yeah.
Yep, yep. Nothing you got wrong there. That is never something I hear from, customers saying, we want the cheaper option. Customers love, the quality of our voices and the way that, things are spoken so that their work sounds really professional and crisp. I had one customer, and we laugh about it every time we talk, but he used to have to record in a closet because, that was his only space of quiet where there were no, interferences in the background. So, not having to do that using Well Said, one allowed him to, not have to record in different places,
Right.
but to streamline his work and get really quality sound that honestly sounded better than his own voice, he admitted. So, that cheaper option is not something that I hear at all. Honestly, we've discussed, and I discuss with customers a lot, the average cost of, completing 1 minute of audio is $45. So that's just 1 minute of audio. And recently I worked with a customer. We went through a 10 slide deck of some different audio that they needed to do. We were able to, complete that in about 30 to 40 minutes.
Okay.
And, think of that number, $45 versus, you know what I mean? What we're talking about, 30 minutes. That's quite a bit. I'm no mathematician, but that's quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure they were very, very appreciative of you helping them save some money there. So yeah,
Good.
I just think that by the time that again, the team gets to success, the pricing discussions already happened. But I'm sure they often come back and tell you that once they were able to kind of get into the platform and see what's possible, it just made sense. And it sounds like with this 10 slide presentation that needed to be done and got done in a fraction of seconds or minutes, I guess I should say, the proof was in the pudding.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the really awesome thing about Well Said too. We're not going to charge you for, every little change that you make in your content. I think we do an incredible job of understanding the workflow of my wonderful, IDs and content creators that are working through their process. We want to ensure that you have the space with your professional grade license to have that creative freedom at scale. So you don't have to worry about, every time you hit render and try to fix a line that it's going to cost you extra. That's
Mm.
always something I'm thrilled about for the perfectionists like myself. You all can, make sure that it's right. And I think that's something really important. I do know that other platforms can appear, to kind of be cheaper up front, especially those pay as you go options. But those are going to kind of nickel and dime you on every other aspect. So counting those
Mm.
renders down. And, with Well Said, we want you to be able to create as much as you need and only use what's going to count. And that's the final production.
Yeah, and I think that that's really crucial. I think it's all about being able to scale confidently without constantly having to watch that meter. Like, think
Yeah,
about how much time it is that you're saving or how many more pieces of content your team can deliver, right?
true.
Yeah.
And I think
Yeah.
that's really important. I have enough going on in my day. I want to make sure this
Don't
content
want to
is
be a
right.
mathematician.
No, definitely do not, and want to kind of have to count how many renders I'm clicking. I'd much rather be focused on the end goal, and that's my product coming out and being something I could be proud of.
Yes, yes. And with this, we have our ROI calculator. So yeah, this would you like to kind of talk about this a bit?
Yeah, so customers really get a kick out of this. And I think I've had some, of my enterprise accounts use this information to take forward to their leadership, even to share, how beneficial this product is and their licenses are. So just to break it down, I think it's really awesome that it explains, how long you've had your license, and as a team, how many minutes of content that you all have created together. And then it gives you a little information here about how many minutes you've created just on your own. So really getting that full view of, how much is being created, what you all are doing here in the product. And also on the other side, as I mentioned, that $45 for 1 minute, multiplying it there by, your number of minutes of content creation. That's where we're getting this number. But if you look at this number, almost 500K, that is the cost
That's a
of
house.
my dream house. Okay. I could not imagine spending this on content because I want my dream house with my pool. So I'd much rather spend it there.
I agree. I think I would rather spend that much money on a nice, beautiful home somewhere, tropical, enjoying the vibes and not having to count the meter.
Absolutely. Yes. What do you all think? Would you spend, or want to spend this much on your content creation? Leave it in the chat
That's a
for
great
us.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you have it, that's wonderful to be able to spend that much on content creation. I need to
Yeah.
work where you're working.
Right.
Mhm. Right. No, so we wouldn't be able to. All right.
Yeah.
I love that. Already a well said devotee. Thank you, Catherine.
Yes, thank you.
All right, so we'll move on to our next challenge, which is pretty much what we talked about through this poll discussion: pronunciation, brand accuracy. For brands, I think voice isn't just the tone, but it's also about the precision. And when a lot of customers find us and they're able to really get into the platform, I would say one of the biggest questions to ask is how am I able to fix mispronounced words? Especially if it comes to a very unique brand name. I mean, I know again, Virginia, you probably hear this all the time, and I'm sure you have some amazing tips.
I have built some awesome best practices just based on, internal teachings and working with customers actually. So one of the awesome things about, being a customer on a team With Well Said, you meet with myself or one of my awesome other CSM teammates for what we call a kickoff call. And that usually is top of mind. So during the kickoff call, we're going to walk you through Studio and talk to you all about some of those best practices and how to ensure that you're getting that consistent sound that you're looking for. Customers come with all types of brand names, acronyms, industry specific words. So, that's always a new challenge and something that's fun to kind of walk them through. Something that Well Said does offer to help, with this kind of challenge or, thing that can, just kind of be a big mountain to understand at the beginning is custom pronunciation tools. So at the phonetic level, we can allow you to have more influence over how those words are pronounced. And we have a ton of resources, including putting myself out there as a resource as well, to ensure that you're supported throughout the process. I can actually show you a little better than I can tell you, if that's
Yeah,
okay.
let's go for it.
Okay, let me grab the mic and share my screen. All right. And then I know, Kimaya, if you'll drop share, there we go. Awesome. Okay, can everyone see my projects page?
I can see your project page, and if anyone is not able to, yep, I'm seeing some yeses come through the chat, so we're good there.
Okay, perfect. Now, what I want to kind of walk you all through here is just a quick overview. We're here on my projects page. In just a moment, I'll create a new project, but I did want to highlight the library section. So your pronunciation library is going to be one of your best friends in creation. One, it allows you to ensure that you have that emphasis, as I mentioned, or influence over some of those words that are industry specific words, like we see here, acronyms or initialisms that you may want to kind of push or encourage the AI to pronounce differently. All of that can be saved here. And what's really awesome is once you've saved it here, you can override what the AI is going to predict and make sure that it says it consistently the way that you would like it to. So let's jump back and I'll share an example with you all, and we will work on this one first. So I'm going to name this shoes since I recently went shopping for a new pair, and I will create my content there. I'm going to use one of my favorite voices. I'll look for him here. And once you get really familiar, those studio pros, you begin to remember the names, kind of their faces, and can just do a quick search. So what I'm going to do just very quickly is grab my script here. We'll jump back over. And then I am just very easily going to hit render, and we'll take a listen to what that sounds like. All right, let's take a listen. I'll scoot this down so we can also see.
In this training, we'll explore how Nike uses powerful storytelling to build deep brand loyalty. Take Victor Wembanyama, power forward for the San Antonio Spurs, for example. Nike released a custom colorway of the GT Hustle 3 inspired by his favorite sci-fi character. It's not just a shoe, it's a personal story that resonates with Wemby and his fans, making the product even more meaningful.
All right. So a little context here. I am originally from San Antonio, Texas. Go Spurs. And as you can see, Savon had no problem, which the news media had a frenzy over pronouncing Victor's last name. Well Said didn't. But with Nike, we had a little trouble. So with a very quick kind of movement here, we would jump over to the replacements section. And what you'll want to do is type in your original text. So I'm going to type in Nike since that was pronounced okay, but not, is what we're used to hearing. And just so we know, Nike, this has nothing to do necessarily with WellSaid. I'm just using this example to show how, brand name and that connection to the story is really powerful for our customers. So, just like it would be for Nike's customers and Wemby and all of his fans. So, to get this correct replacement, you have a few options. Some things that I use, I would sound the word out. So, I may type in I and then KEE, possibly, just to ensure that, maybe that's what I'm picking up. I would make sure to turn on this phonetic respelling toggle here. That's going to tell the AI, make sure that you're paying attention. This is a phonetic respelling here. And there are some spaces that we want you to recognize, such as syllables. So let's take a listen to it.
Nike,
So right there, sounding much better. The other really cool tool that I like to show customers and I use a lot, even though I've been, trained on how to adjust some phonetic spellings, is this. So here in Studio, you also can ask the AI for suggestions for your respellings. I wasn't too far off there. They lowercased this part of the syllable, so I can do that as well. And we now recently had an update where you can get an English UK version here of the pronunciation. So you have options to both, and this is something that is going to continue to grow. Now, something that I do just as part of my workflow when I'm sharing with customers is I'll take a listen to this. If it sounds great, then I'll go ahead and add it to my library. We'll do that here. It places it here, and then I can save it to my team. Want to make sure I'm sharing. And then moving forward, anytime you're right here, you can double click, it's bolded it to let us know, hey, Regina, we understand that you want to hear Nike this way. Moving forward, we'll pronounce it as such. And I would just very quickly re-render that clip again. Kimaya, what do you think? Respelling, is that easy? Anything seem difficult?
I mean, you made it seem way, way easy, even though I think it is a pretty simple process. Something that we have seen hundreds of times over, Nike being pronounced. Just going in and making that quick phonetic update and then sharing it with the team. I think that was really important to highlight, as well as the suggestion. I feel like a lot of people don't know that that exists. So I'm glad that you highlighted that. And we
Yeah,
had a
love to
Mavs
share.
fan in the comments too, just so you know, you have a little rivalry going on there in Texas.
Okay, good to know. Old school Maps fan, but you know how it is. Go Spurs, like I said. So we'll go ahead and render this so we can hear the difference in the pronunciation of Nike. And just for time, we'll just kind of do this a little quickly.
in this training, we'll explore how Nike uses powerful storytelling to build deep brand loyalty. Take Victor Wembanyama, power forward for the San Antonio Spurs, for example. Nike released a custom colorway of the GT Hustle 3 inspired by his favorite sci-fi character.
So there we go. Overriding this using the library has now directed the AI to pronounce it the way that we've, wanted to hear it, aligns most closely with that Nike that we're used to hearing. It also, as Kimaya mentioned, me sharing it to the team library here. Any of my teammates, if Nike pops up in one of their scripts moving forward, it'll bold this word, letting them know, hey, friend, you don't have to do as much work. Your awesome teammate Regina has added Nike and a pronunciation here to the respelling library or a pronunciation library. Now, Kimaya, do I have a time or do I have a little moment for one more?
You have the floor, Regina.
All right, let's do this. So I'll also share another one with you. Let me jump and grab a script really quickly. All right, and I'm going to paste this. Let's change the voice up a bit. Oh, didn't grab it. All right, Yep, there we go. All right, let's change the voice up a little bit. And for those of you that are as, new to Well Said, you can very easily swap your voices here just by clicking See All. Once again, I am going to search for a voice that I'd like to use, and we will use Fiona, conversational voice. I'll go ahead and render really quickly, and we'll take a quick listen.
WellSaid's product launches are a masterclass in creating hype. Our sleek reveals tap into serious FOMO, making customers want to be part of the moment.
All right, so we've all been there with a little FOMO. But just the notice, you all have been hearing Kimaya and I mention Well Said this entire time, whereas Fiona may have pronounced it a little differently. That could be due to, accent. I think Kimaya and we talk all the time. I pronounce words differently being from Texas than she may from, her state, which she'll tell you a little more about later. But there are ways to kind of work around that here in studio as well. So what we'll do is add Well Said. And I am going to kind of think of, as I mentioned earlier, this time, a pronunciation. Anybody in the chat want to, take a shot and share maybe something that you would add for Well Said?
I love
Since we
it.
saw kind of what the suggestion would do, and then you saw kind of my guess earlier, what would yours be? We heard well, but what about said? What would you all suggest?
Looking pretty consistent here in the comments.
All right, let's see. What do they say?
Everyone's giving us SED for said.
SED. All right, let's test it out. Okay. And we already have our toggle on, so let's try it. Oops.
Well said.
There we go. We have some respelling pros on the call. I may need to bring
I
you all to
love
my next
this.
onboarding.
Phonetic
All
gurus.
right. Okay. So the other thing that I missed here is I do want it to pronounce, the S. So I may go in and add an S here or a Z. So let's check that one out too.
Well said.
I love it. So I will save this here to my team. All right. Anyone want to take a guess at FOMO? I think she said it well, but I want to hear it similarly to what we are used to hearing. So let's try that one too.
All right. So we have a capital FOE dash MOH.
Okay.
That's one. You got a
Okay.
few variations here, so we'll try that one out and see what happens.
All right, let's test it out.
FOMO.
Very nice. Okay, one more.
Okay.
All right, so we have another one that is FOH-MO, all lowercase.
Okay, FOH. And then you said MO?
Correct.
All right, let's test it.
FOMO.
Very good. Both of those sound excellent. So when we have this happen, what I do is this. I'll add them both because then you have different options there depending on one, the voice and its accent, and then as well, just the way that it sounds within your sentence and paragraph. So we'll do the other, which was FOH and FOEMOH. And I'll add this one too. And it creates this really awesome list for us here where we can go through and kind of select depending on how we're feeling, the way we want to hear it moving forward. So now let's render our clip and see how everything sounds nice and neat.
WellSaid's product launches are a masterclass in creating hype. Our sleek reveals tap into serious FOMO, making customers want to be part of the moment.
I love it. You all's guess at Well Said, Chef's Kiss, and then same with FOMO as well. This is a clip I would download and share and put into my project. Thank you all. All right. The last but not least thing that I wanted to share with you all is Caruso. You all may have been hearing about it, seeing newsletters, just as we mention it. We have had some recent updates with Caruso, and I wanted to share those with you. One of the biggest things that I've heard just as feedback from customers, Regina, we're creating content. I have one customer that creates a lot of content where it's scenarios. So the voices are kind of speaking back and forth with each other and wanting to have space where if one voice asks a question, it sounds like one is really important to her. So I'll share with you all a question sound. All right, so here we are going to type in our project name, and instead of selecting standard here, I'm going to select Caruso, and I will go ahead and create this project very quickly. And the voice that I'll be working with is one of my favorites, Tara. Anyone else a fan of Tara's voice? I think she has
I'm a
such a
huge
nice,
fan of
smooth
Sarah.
voice. Yeah. All right, and then I'll grab my script over here. And it'll just be a quick question. I'll jump back over and paste. Alrighty. And then I just selected the conversational voice style. We're here in Caruso, and it's a very quick want to learn more. Hopefully we want Tara to ask this question. So let's see. All right, Tara, let's see.
Want to learn more? Contact us on social media.
So there sounded like a question, whereas previously in our, most recent model, that would be read, more a little straight across, very formal. Now you can see this kind of reminds me, I don't know, Kimaya, if it reminds you, like a commercial, maybe, where they're asking, if you want to learn some more, contact us here.
Exactly. Yes, it does. And for those who may be inquiring about Caruso, we will have a full webinar on that in June. So definitely be on the lookout for that link. But thank you so much for kind of teasing that there, Regina.
You are welcome. Hope you all are excited and ready to learn more. I will stop sharing and hand the mic back. Thanks, Kimaya.
It would help if I unmute. There we go. So I think you dropped some great nuggets there. And I also think that it would be a great transition into our next, challenge that a lot of people probably will face. And I think with ensuring that your organization has diversity and representation, highlighting its brand, it may not come up often, but I'm pretty sure it comes up often enough. Mostly because I think that it's not just about how something is said, but it's really about who says it too. So any takers on that, Regina?
Yeah, so making sure the voice reflects the diversity and value of your plans or of your brand is key. We hear from customers all the time. Customers want more than just neutral voices. They want real and diverse identities based on, who they may be speaking to. I have one customer, for example, that, this is something that's really important to them. And they really wanted to create, as I mentioned, those scenarios. So they work for and create content for a medical company. And that medical content goes out to their nurses that travel all over the country and doctors and providers as well. And they want to set up real life scenarios so that their nurses are able to have conversations and kind of recognize those identities of their diverse community that they serve and treat. So it was very important for them to, when they listened to our voices, hear voices that sounded like their patients. And we had conversations about age, gender, location, and region as well, because those were all things that really mattered to them. So definitely something that customers are, wanting more of.
Yeah, I think that's a really good call out. And I'll throw you a curveball. I know you mentioned where I'm from earlier, so maybe this will be the little curveball here. I'm originally from North Carolina. So, with North Carolina, I don't think I have an accent, but it comes out occasionally. So I think with this curveball here, just talking about, being able to find that perfect voice. let's just say I'm looking to promote, I don't know, a coffee brand. I need one
Okay.
that, really signifies that regional dialect, that nice Southern twang, but it's still professional, has a warm and friendly demeanor. Like, who would you potentially recommend, and how can we go into studio and be able to kind of navigate through finding this perfect
Great question. So that's Southern hospitality, very, very important. And I have heard your accent before, so I do know it comes out just like mine. I try to say you all, but y'all just sounds more
all
natural and
comes
feels
out
more
every
natural
time?
to me. So, as far as kind of breaking that down, let me share with you my studio again, and I'll walk you all through how I would do that. So, I'll grab here, share my screen. And something that I like to highlight, I kind of get up on my soapbox, but for time, I won't do it today, is our voices page. This is something that's really important and really fun to share with customers because it kind of brought the voices out of hiding where they were before. You had to add a script, that sort of thing. Now you can actually interact with the voices and really get that feel for what you're looking for concerning, your brand or the content that you create. So I love to jump in here on the voices page. Now, how would we find that voice? Here in the regional accent area, that's what I would look for. You mentioned, kind of a Southern, voice that would resonate with your customers. So I would filter that large list using this, and it's giving us Jimmy. So let's take a listen. And since you are my pretend customer for the moment, tell me what you think.
Inclusive design is a related field but focuses on processes rather than outcomes.
All right.
Okay, I think Jimmy could make the cut. He's given more Western North Carolina, but it's a pass.
Okay, okay. So that is good to know. Tips for our voice team. I think they do a really awesome job as far as finding different voices, but we have a request here for a um, non-Western North Carolina voice. Is that an Eastern, Northern?
Definitely an Eastern North Carolina voice.
All right, voice team, where you at? We have the request. Also, same for you all as well. If you ever, are listening, want to hear a specific voice, share that directly with our team. That's the information that they want to know. They would love to hear from you and better understand what voices or sounds you all are looking to hear to align best with your brands and your content.
Yes, and I think that that's great, information to just really be able to kind of hone in on how to identify a voice that truly represents your audience, not just in tone, but also in identity. So, do you have any other nuggets to share around that? Or, just being able to submit that feedback to see if they can get what they need?
Yeah, for sure. So, of course, submitting the feedback, but just as we kind of walk through and look at voices, I have a lot of customers that will highlight that they are looking for diverse voices, something that I do just personally to ensure that you all, receive the information that you need. I always encourage you to look at the filters. Gender was something that our team, kind of went back and forth on and really put some intentional thought behind, but it was a request from a lot of our customers. They wanted to be able to filter the list this way and identify the voices this way. If there are other filters that you all think would be helpful, let us know. That is something that we're always interested in hearing about. But just as we highlight some of our voices that include diversity, Jordan is a huge favorite of mine, of a lot of my customers as well. We'll check out her promo voice style.
For the most comfortable night of sleep you've ever had, head to Spinal Tap Mattresses.
Excellent. And then Lorenzo. Lorenzo is one of my favorite voices. Not to, miss highlight anyone, but as I mentioned, originally being from South Texas, I have a very large, just Hispanic population where I am from. A lot of my customers as well from that region love to use Lorenzo's voice because it resonates well with some of their content creators and their audience members as well. So I will share one of my favorite voices with you.
In order to properly amortize the value of an asset, we must first know its initial purchase price.
All right. And then last but not least, Lulu G. Lulu G, I think, is such an incredible voice. He sounds so smooth and confident in what he's speaking about. But this gives a lot of options for customers as well when it comes to male voices. So we'll take a listen.
I kept wondering why that frisbee was getting bigger and bigger. And then it hit me.
All right. And that is kind of how I go through. I like to really listen to the voices, get a feel for them, their accents, the way that they sound. And this really helps us customers share what resonates with them, with me, to be able to have that knowledge and share and kind of put those out there in the chat. I'd love to hear from you all. What are your favorite voices? Any type of diversity things that your audience is looking for when you all are creating content. I'll watch the chat and share this back with Kimaya. Thanks so much.
No problem. Yeah, we have Lorenzo seems to be a favorite. Patrick is another. I think also I'm a little biased to Jordan as well.
Yep.
And I believe that we could probably agree that the goal isn't necessarily for us to have a bigger library, but a better one that's really thoughtful and inclusive.
Very
So I
true.
just want to really highlight our voice team for doing such an amazing job with being intentional on with how we build out this library. And it looks like Kai, Selena, just a lot of good names that are coming through. Kai is one of my favorites. Owen has an amazing voice. You all are
Yeah.
just giving some really good names.
Yes.
And it looks like there's a need for some more non-binary options. So we hear you loud and clear.
For sure.
Definitely hear you there. And I think, Regina, with this, let me share my screen again. We can move
Yes.
on to talent number 5.
All right. So that brings us to our very last challenge, number 5. This comes up all the time for me as I meet with customers, but that is going to be collaboration. More people are using WellSaid together, and they're looking for more ways to share their projects, split up the work, and just overall stay in sync with one another. So, Kimaya, I will hand it over to you to kind of share a little more.
I feel like the pressure's on now. But it has been, I think, a massive focus for us. Like we've been listening to our customer feedback, rolling out updates, just making sure we're working on making things easier and smoother for you. I did see in the comments, about the use of commas and being able to understand beta versions. So again, that Caruso webinar is going to be a gold mine for you to get those tools and resources. One of the things that we've also been working on has been folders, which I think has been a pretty big hit. It makes it easier to, keep your project organized in a way that actually makes sense for your team. And Regina, I would love to get your take on a common scenario we hear from customers. I don't know, Company X or Ethnic Org, they're using WellSaid across their entire organization. They want everyone in the same studio environment, but they still need their individual department to be able to stay distinct. So success has to stay segmented from marketing. What solution would you recommend for them?
That's a hard one. Well, it used to be. So we actually have a wonderful solution that recently was released for that exact use case, and it's called Workspaces. So at Workspaces or using Workspaces, that admin that you mentioned at Company X could create a dedicated space for, like you said, their L&D team or marketing team, and only invite members of that team that will be creating into this place. So that way the team can really focus on just their own projects while still keeping access to those shared resources like, that team library that I showed you all earlier. And the best part is it's really easy to set up. They can also create as many workspaces as, needed based on what's included in their plan. So the setup can really flex and scale with whatever their teams are in need of. And really just creates an awesome option for them to have that laser focus without losing any access to some of those org-wide things that they'd like to share.
Love
Does
it,
that
love it.
help?
That
Okay.
helps tremendously.
Okay. Very,
And if
very good.
anyone Yeah, and if anyone does have questions about what that looks like, being able to streamline, I did see in the comments earlier that we do have some that are new to a team, and being able to set up that kickoff call. Feel free to reach out to your CSM to
Yeah,
find out how we can get that set up. We would love to be able to walk you through the process to make sure you're
for sure.
maximizing on your workflow with well said. All
For
right.
sure. Kickoff calls are probably my favorite. Everyone's new, we're excited, and that's where we really get to let Well Said shine. But enough about that and kind of my favorite. I think we're on fire with these new releases, Kimaya. I think we're ready for that sneak peek. Audience, if you are ready for the sneak peek, put it in the chat. Just type sneak peek. We need to get Kimaya hyped up to show
Ooh.
us.
Okay. Yes, get me hyped up. I love it. I even got a little razzle dazzle here with, the video.
Yes.
So we are, I would say, another part of this challenge. As you mentioned, just being able to get everything together. We're always putting customers at the center of what we do. Just ensuring that we provide the greatest value. So now our business and enterprise customers, drum roll, and actually comment on a so that is our new feature that we have available. Think of it as kind of like your drive or your workspace where everyone needs to be able to communicate together. You are able to now have full access to a project where you view, listen, and leave a comment on a clip. So if you use the little app feature, you can actually notify team members via email to streamline communication and efficiency. And what this will allow you and your team to do, the first thing is going to be to reduce the switching of tools. You can exchange feedback directly within the product, reduce your back and forth on external tools, popping in Slack in your chat. You're able to all have that conversation in real time within Studio. The next thing is going to be faster decision making. So you're going to be able to centralize your discussions. It's going to give you quicker resolutions. It's going to reduce your delays. All of those good things. Our next one will be enhanced context and transparency. So those comments are going to give you a historical record on any decisions that have been made when it comes to content, any feedback that you have. Maybe there's one of those words that you felt weren't quite pronounced correctly, as we mentioned earlier within the webinar. So you'll have all of that in the streamline or the workflow to be able to reduce any misunderstandings. And lastly, I think it's going to be able to give you all clear accountability. So those tagged users will be in those threaded conversations to help assign responsibilities and to also be able to help track any follow-ups that come through. And for now, this functionality, for now, is just limited to team members on a team who have full access to a project. But in the future, we are going to work really hard on expanding this to other types of comments. So I'm really, really excited to be able to share that with everyone. And now our Q&A. So we did have quite a few questions that came in. I love that everybody put the sneak peek in the chat. I was trying to scroll up to see if there was anything else that came up. We mentioned some additional options for voices. I do see 3 questions here. So one of the questions that came up, Regina, and it was answered, but I want to make sure that I say it out loud so that everyone has the answer to it. It
Yeah.
was asked, how do we access this number for our team creations in how many minutes? So that was in regards to
That
the ROI feature that you mentioned.
Yes, that is a great question. Log into Studio, and when you're there on your projects page, from that left-handed area of the navigation tool, it'll pop up there at the very top of your projects page, and it'll be there for every, user that's on your team, or if you are a team of one, it'll also show there as well.
Awesome. And it actually looks like we kind of touched on this one already, but I want you to be able to give anyone who you may have assigned to you or any other of our CSMs the opportunity if you want to highlight them. The question came up about the kickoff meeting with a new client. So it says we have team members who are already using WellSaid and our leadership purchased licensing for the rest of us. So I'm new to WellSaid. Can we schedule this type of kickoff training for our new members? And is this training free?
Oh, wonderful. Okay, that is an incredible question. So, welcome to Well Said. First of all, hope you have access to your account. And if not, please let us know. But yes, we do kickoff calls for, new customers that come to us. We also do what's called a creative session, all of my teammates and I. So you're able to, kind of get these updates that Kimaya is sharing, I shared throughout the entire kind of length of your journey with us. So a lot of contact there. Yes, these are free. You just simply need to reach out to your CSM and they would be happy to schedule some time with you. Also, as well, I'll do a little plug while I'm here. Your CSM will reach out to you all, send you updates, emails letting you know new things are coming out. They'll offer creative sessions. Never be shy to click that link if you get an email from me. I love doing these and jumping on calls as well as troubleshooting. So if you ever have any question, we can always meet live. That is something that is part of your subscription as a business or enterprise member.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for the questions. Regina, thank you so much for your response or your responses. And this pretty much concludes today's webinar. I'm kind of, sad that we're ending. I really
I
enjoyed this.
know.
I hope that you all found great value in what was shared today. And again, anyone who had questions about our Caruso webinar that is coming up, that will be June. So keep on the lookout for that. And I just want to thank you all so much for spending time with us today. That recap that will make its way to your inbox very shortly. If there are any additional questions, our product support team is amazing, so they'll be able to help you. But there's also a lot of resources that are in our help center. So if you just do a quick search in that tab, it may be able to give you answers to a lot of the questions that you may have. And just again, make sure that you register for the next webinar. And how do we reach out to the product support team? If you go to wellsaid.io, you will see a little icon at the very bottom of that website, and that will allow you to connect with our product support team. But until then, or as Marina just pointed out, support at wellsaidlabs.com. That will give you a direct link to our product support team, so that way you don't have to go in to the chat. They will be able to respond directly. And they're super efficient too. You saw how fast you dropped that email address. So very efficient. Will help you solve your problems as quickly as needed. But until then, I hope that you all keep creating content that speaks volume, and we will see you next time.
Yes, thanks everyone. Have a great day. If any of you are going to be visiting ATD, I'll be there and I hope to see you all and meet in person. Drop